Former light heavyweight champion Jiri Prochazka recently took to Instagram to share footage of his training as he recovers from the shoulder injury, which required the former champion to vacate his belt this past November to pursue a much-needed surgery. We can see that Jiri has been working on improving his boxing skills in anticipation to a matchup with the new light heavyweight champion Jamal Hill, who is a very strong striker, as Denisa is seen in a routine that requires him to constantly punch tennis balls out of the air while moving around and dodging them. We hope that Prochazka continues his speedy recovery, and we see him sometime this year get a chance to recover the title he vacated. Is Islam Makhachev considering fighting Conor McGregor? Lightweight champion Islam Makhachev, fresh off his 5-round grueling victory over featherweight champion and hopeful double champ Alexander the Great Volkanovski this past February in Australia, expressed his desire to remain an active champion and defend his belt as fast as the UFC got him an opponent. Makhachev was in attendance at UFC 285 and was asked by BT Sport reporter Caroline Pierce if he would consider a fight with Conor McGregor, and the Dagestani was quick to point out that the Notorious did not deserve such a fight. Let's hear what else the lightweight champion had to say.
Your mentor and coach and brother have been MMA of us fought and beat Conor before. Is that if we see Conor back at lightweight, would you want that fight as well?
He not deserve if he beat Chandler or some other guy, but if UFC want, why not? Make some good money, let's go.
Right, fair enough. I think the red panty night, as everybody calls it.
Henry Cejudo wants Merab as a backup at UFC 288. Bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling is scheduled to defend his title against the former two-division champion Henry Cejudo this upcoming May at UFC 288, and the two men have been chirping at each other for weeks now, with Triple C even questioning the champion's desire to face him, suggesting that Sterling will back out of the fight before the event. Cejudo, after watching Merab Dvalishvili dominate Peter Yan in a lopsided unanimous decision at UFC Las Vegas main event this past weekend, has taken to social media to plead his case for Merab as the backup fighter. Why we don't make Merab the backup at UFC 288? Why don't we do it that way? That way, it's both of these training partners, because I have a feeling Aljamain is going to eventually back out, so I'd want to make sure. Let's hear it from Cejudo himself.
So, dear Dana White, I'm over here watching the number 2 and number 3 contender, and I tell you what, I got a feeling that Al Gislain is more likely to kind of back out of this fight, right, Yuki? So that being said, why don't you give me Merab? Why don't you give me Merab? Since Sean O'Malley wants to wait, he wants to take his time. Why don't we make Merab the backup at UFC 288? Why don't we do it that way? That way, both these training partners, because I have a feeling that Aljamain is going to eventually back out. But I want to make sure, because it's going to be the same game plan for both of these chumps. Wrestle, strike, every time they throw something heavy, they're going in for takedowns. Anyways, Dana White, if you're listening to me, let's have Merab as a backup. Newark, New Jersey, UFC 288. Because I want both of them. If I can fight both of them the same night, they can both get it.
Edwards posts a protect yourself at all time reminder on IG ahead of UFC 286. Leon Edwards took to Instagram this past weekend to remind the former champion Kamaru Usman ahead of their UFC 286 bout in London of what happened in their last encounter. Rocky, after starting strong in the first round against the former champion, even going as far as taking Usman to the ground for the first time in his UFC career, had begun to slow down in the subsequent rounds, with Usman dominating him in both the striking and wrestling. However, after an epic pep talk from his corner before the 5th round started, Leon had a resurgence and in the last minute of the fight landed a devastating knockout kick to the head of Kamaru, dethroning him of the title and creating an unforgettable moment in UFC history. There is no doubt that the champion comes in full of confidence, as heard in this clip from UFC 286 Countdown.
I fought him twice, so I got a feeling of what he's good at. He's improved as far as his striking goes, but I don't think he is as good as what he thinks he is. I can knock him out and I can hurt him.
Leon Rocky Edwards!
I'm going in there to outclass him, outmaster him. and show the world that I am the new dog on the block.
Dana White says Jon Jones would have beaten Francis Ngannou. Dana White has expressed that the UFC no longer will entertain any negotiations with Francis Ngannou, and that he will never be part of the promotion again. In a most recent interview with TMC Sports, the UFC president was asked about a potential fight with Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou, and White responded by saying, "I tried to make that fight for 2 years, and let me tell you what, I think a lot of other people feel this way. I think that's exactly the way the fight would have gone if Ngannou was in there too." Let's listen to the boss on the rest of his thoughts about the aforementioned matchup.
I think a lot of other people feel this way. You know, I think that's exactly the way the fight would have gone if he was in there too. You know, him and Cyril had a 5-round war, and if Cyril doesn't go for that submission, Cyril probably wins that fight at the end of the 5th round there. So, listen. No.
You think John's likely, or I should say, you think likely Francis would be dominated just as Cyril was? And
I wouldn't be shocked either if, absolutely, and I wouldn't be shocked either if he fights Stipe and then retires and doesn't fight again.
Do you all agree with White's comments, or do you think he is just being dismissive of the Predator? Let us know in the comments below. Bo Nickal responds to Chandler's criticism as next opponent is revealed. Although the Bo Nickal hype train seems to be real, as the highly touted prospect delivered an impressive performance in his debut at UFC 285 against Jamie Pickett. Some fighters have taken notice and have expressed caution. Michael Chandler was one of them by saying, "I think Bo's getting a little bit too talky for the average fan's liking. If it were me or his manager, I'd say, hey, let's keep our nose to the grindstone." Bo took Chandler's comments in stride and appreciated that a veteran like that is already paying attention to his career. Let's hear what else Bo had to say to Ariel Helwani when asked about it.
Thank you. Like, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that statement, you know. I think Michael Chandler is a fan of me. I think Michael Chandler wants me to win. First off, he said, my potential is exponential. So let's listen to what he's actually saying. He's not hating on me at all.
There have been talks that highly touted prospect Trayson Gore may be his next opponent, with the latter claiming on social media that he has verbally agreed. Let's see how Bo fares in this matchup. That's all for today's video. If you want to know the latest UFC news, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell, and click the like button so you don't miss any details about the upcoming fights. Thanks for watching. See you soon.